Hi and welcome to News in Depth. I'm Adam Lowenstein. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, you'll meet Steve Agid. His name might not ring any bells, but the voice of this 57-year-old United Launch Alliance employee and Cocoa resident has guided viewers through the launch of numerous unmanned rockets from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. For the lifelong space junkie, the job is still like a dream come true. We'll visit the Windover archeological site in Titusville. Brevard County and the state are talking about joining forces to purchase and manage the 8.5-acre parcel, a former cemetery that has been the site of important discoveries of human brain DNA and textiles dating back 7,000 to 8,000 years. The current owner, a Rockledge-based nonprofit, doesn't have the funding to properly manage the site. And the latest restaurant from Dijon Papage, a Melbourne Beach oceanfront spot called Sand on the Beach, held its grand opening over the weekend. Papage is the man behind other beachside hotspots like City Tropics Bistro, Andiamo Cafe Italiano, and Dijon Steak and Lobster House. His newest place brings a Key West vibe to a building that's been unused since the hurricanes of 2004. But first today, can you hear that? Can you? Well, you can actually, but if you could, it would be the school bell ringing. That means it's time for a visit from Michelle Spitzer and Megan Downs. We have 3 reports from our education team today. So Michelle and Megan, take it away.
Hi, I'm Megan Downs with Florida Today. You're here with Cram Session on the Air, your source for education news in Brevard County. I'm here with Sarah Strickland at Edgewood Jr. Senior High School and also Michelle Spitzer. She's fellow education reporter with Florida Today. As you can see, we're surrounded by cans right now. We're in the middle of the week of the Food for Thought drive. Those cans will go to about 41 local pantries throughout Brevard County. They're being collected by all schools and all district offices in the hopes to sort of replenish the food pantry shelves that are looking awfully low right now, according to many professionals throughout the county. So Sarah, can you tell us how the food drive's been going so far at Edgewood?
This is probably just about half what we're gonna get. By tomorrow we should have a whole bunch more. Last year we did about this and a lot more, and we had them all set up.
So how'd you let students know that they needed to come and bring food out?
We've had posters, we've had our principal go around to the 7th graders because this is new to them, and we've also had announcements daily.
So do you think kids realize that they're helping the community, maybe other students that might be hungry here and just really aren't, their peers don't know about it? How do you think they feel about it?
I think it's going very well. The kids are realizing that there's families out there that need food and they want to help out.
Great, so good luck to you. You'll probably have 2 times this, you said, pretty soon?
Yes, hopefully by tomorrow.
Okay.
In other news, we're going to learn about a program that allows students to be enrolled in Brevard Public Schools, but not actually take any classes in a building. We're going to visit with the Suntree family, whose 8-year-old son is a participant. Let's hear what they had to say.
We're in the virtual program, and he is still a public school student. He is he's considered in a school of choice where K-12 is the vendor, and they have provided all the books and the material and the daily instructions, and we spend between 4 and 5 hours a day learning different subjects. If it's a completed lesson, it has
a color
of
what the book is. Like history is a light green and science is a dark one. And orange is music, and most of the others are purple.
My husband and I didn't feel that Grant was living up to his potential in school, and this program just offered so much, and we felt that that this program would educate Grant right up to his potential. It will challenge him. He will learn so much more than he could have in a brick and mortar school. The schedule comes up on the computer and tells me what we need to do that day, and when we're finished we mark it complete. It shows up on the schedule as complete. We take tests. Grant will have to return to his school and take the FCATs in February when they are given, and he will take them with the rest of his class.
Tonight, the Brevard County School Board will be meeting. You can, of course, get live updates on what's happening. That's on our website at floridatoday.com/education. They'll discuss a new policy on allowing outside groups to address students. That's nonprofit groups like the Boy Scouts and others. They'll also go over the district's 5-year building plan, which of course includes no plan for new schools because of a drop in enrollment, but it might include some improvements to existing schools you can check out on the district's website to see if that might include your own school. They'll also likely deny 2 charter school applications. One is from Somerset Academy, which is managed by charter school company Academica. The other was a Pegasus School for Math and Science that was going to be managed by Dean Padarakis, a former Brevard County teacher and school board candidate. However, District Review Committee has agreed that those applications aren't quite ready yet, so it's likely that the board will follow their recommendation. Also online, you can check out my special report on the stimulus plan. That's again at floridatoday.com/education. You'll see how how schools have benefited from $50 million infused into the operating budget because of the stimulus plan. That's especially helped Title I schools, those that serve low-income students, as well as added extra services for disabled students. Florida will soon be competing for 2 new federal grants through the stimulus plan. That's the Race to the Top funds and also the Investing in Innovation funds. Those are going to allow great new ideas for school reform. So we'll be reporting on those as well. Be sure to check it out.
Well, Sarah, thank you for joining us today and telling us about the food drive, and we wish you guys luck here at Edgewood. Finally, we're going to wrap up Cram Session with a look at Satellite High's Wind Ensemble Band. They were selected recently for a very prestigious honor. Let's go to the school and find out about it.
We've just had the distinct honor of being invited once again to perform for the National Band Association's Southern Conference that this year will wind up being held in Mississippi at the University of Mississippi. We'll be performing at the Ford Theater for the Performing Arts. This is a festival, actually a conference that happens biannually every other year somewhere in the southeast with, again, the National Band Association. What they try to do is to do it in conjunction with the CBDNA, which is the College Band Directors National Association Conference. So this conference will be attended by musicians, conductors, college directors, some college bands, I'm not sure what that list is yet, and some high school bands that were fortunate enough to be selected. There's a band from Alabama, a band from Kentucky, and a band from Tennessee, along with Satellite High School. Where I really feel fortunate is this is the second time in a row that we've been selected for this. 2 years ago, we were selected to be in Georgia. The conference was there at Columbus State University. And so this year, the second off year, to be invited again, we just feel is a tremendous opportunity, and we're really proud of the fact that we've been asked to do it 2 years in a row.
The Satellite High Wind Ensemble is raising money to help cover the nearly $20,000 cost of traveling to the conference. Call the school at 779-2000 for more information or to contribute. From the sounds of music to the music of speech, and both have satellites in common, it's time to meet Steve Agid. The avionics engineer at United Launch Alliance is a flight commentator, explaining how the vehicle is performing as Delta rockets launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station ascend into Earth's orbit. He was scheduled to be at it again recently with the planned launch of a Delta II carrying 2 missile defense satellites. Although he's been a flight commentator just since 2004, Agid has been preparing for his role since childhood.
3, 2, 1.
0.
We have liftoff. Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta II rocket.
Reaching steady state levels in the chamber pressures. Recovering now from the main engine and burner engine initial launch transients.
We are listening to Steve Agid in the telemetry lab,
seconds in.
calling out the flight data in real time.
Seconds. Now at Mach 1. Vehicle's now going transonic.
Well, we're here right now in hangar AE, and for Delta II launches, I'll do the flight commentary from here. For Delta IV launches, which I also do, I'll do the flight commentary from the LCC, or the firing room, at the Delta IV complex, or the DOC, Delta Operations Center. But since we're in AE, we'll talk about AE. On launch day, I have a series of displays that you can see here. with over 50 parameters just on this bottom row that I'll look at. As the rocket lifts off, from the time it lifts off until the final maneuvers, I'll watch certain events take place, see how well the operations of the rocket are going, making sure I make all the different event calls. As a solid rocket booster separate, as the spacecraft separates, the payload fairing comes off, all the major events, I'll keep track of each of these events by looking at a little sheet I have, when data is going to be lost, when we go from ground station to ground station, when we expect to get data again. And all this is pretty much pre-planned, so I'll know pretty much what I'm going to be seeing. With the aid of these charts, I'll know how well things are going. I know when things should happen. Now I'll also know, as a result of the data, whether the events are happening on time, a little bit early, a little bit late. And every one of these parameters tells me a little bit of that information. I convey that information to the general public.
Anyway, for Sept, and we have separation. Airlets, Sept separated.
There was a call that went out in 2004 that we wanted to have a Delta IV commentator. We have a Delta II commentator at that time, Mark Levine, and we wanted to have a Delta IV as well. So the call went out, anybody wants to try this out? And I volunteered to do that. Well, the reason I wanted to do that is because in the past I had had some experience being on the radio and being on TV, and I had way back in the 1970s when I was still going to Florida Tech. So I said, hey, this would be great. One of the things I used to do, and this is kind of a nice little side story, I used to imitate the Apollo Saturn countdown. Jack King was the Apollo Saturn commentator for the countdown, and we used to go to the launches and people would always sit there and listen to me do this countdown. So I said, hey, this would be fun to actually do a launch. And so I worked with Mark Levine, and he told me the types of information I'd need to pre-plan something like this. And back in August of 2004, I did my first flight commentary, and that was Delta Mission 307, which launched the Messenger spacecraft to Mercury. Okay. And I've been performing ever since.
Anybody for Sept?
08:34.
We have separation of the solids.
0.244.
We have ignition of the 3 airlet solids. 3 airlet solids now coming up in chamber pressure. 1 minute, 20 seconds into the flight.
The latest Delta launch is Agid's 18th as flight commentator. Staying in northern Brevard, there's an effort underway to transfer ownership of the Windover archaeological site in Titusville from Preservation and Education Trust, a small Rockledge nonprofit, to a county and state partnership. If the deal happens, the state would buy the swampy parcel that 7,000 years ago served as a mortuary pond, and the county's environmentally endangered lands program would manage it. We recently spoke with archaeologist Rachel Wentz from the Florida Public Archaeology Network and took a closer look at some of the amazing discoveries from Windover.
I became intimately familiar with the Windover remains, having completed my master's and PhD at Florida State University under the direction of Dr. Glenn Doran, who was the lead excavator during the Windover excavations. I'm a bioarchaeologist, and I specialize in the analysis of human skeletal remains and have worked on the Windover remains for about 8 or 9 years. It was a mortuary pond. It's a pond where Native Americans interred their dead, so it's an actual cemetery. They were placed predominantly on their left side, some of them wrapped in hand-woven textiles and submerged beneath the surface of the water, held in place by an erection of sticks over the body. They had grave good inclusions like tools, bone and antler tools, some stone points and some shells and things of adornment. We've learned a tremendous amount about the health of populations 7,000 and 8,000 years ago in Florida by the analysis of the remains, and we just want to see the pond protected and overseen and managed in a professional way. The EELS program can provide it some protection. They can oversee the site, they can monitor the site, which is something that needs to take place. This is a cemetery. Only half the pond was excavated, so we don't know how many individuals still remain in the pond. So it needs to be protected and it needs to be monitored on a regular basis. And EELS, that's what they do. They monitor Florida's endangered lands, and this definitely should be a very high priority of the state to oversee this. It's one of the most significant archaeological sites in North America, if not the world. The significance of the site is the antiquity of the site. These remains date to over 7,000 years ago, which are very ancient in terms of any skeletal remains from North America. There were 168 individuals excavated, so it's a very large population. We have newborns to the elderly, which gives us a view of health throughout the lifespan. And the preservation, because they were placed down in the peat beneath the surface of the water, the preservation for the hard tissue, the skeletal remains, is really exceptional. And so with a large number of individuals exceptionally preserved, we can do a lot of different analyses and look at different aspects of health like nutrition, pathogen load, activity patterns on their body, traumatic injury rates. So it's really just a phenomenal site.
The Brevard County Commission voted 4-1 last month to pursue this plan, which would likely feature additional restrictions after residents in the surrounding Windover Farms subdivision expressed concerns about increased traffic and unsupervised public access to the site. The state is expected to make its decision by December. And finally today, it's a room, a big room with a view. Restaurateur Jean Pepage has opened his latest restaurant in the Melbourne Beach oceanfront site that once housed boomerangs. The building was nearly destroyed by the hurricanes of 2004, and to hear tell, it almost took another act of God to get the project through a maze of county and local regulations. But $4 million in renovations that began last year are now basically done, and Sand on the Beach had its grand opening over the weekend. Here's what Mr. Pepage had to say about his project.
Well, in 2004, I decided to purchase this property in the beach, and unfortunately hurricanes came and destroyed it pretty much 50 to 75%. And so I decided to kind of take a look and see what we could do different than what it was before, since the damage was so extensive. So then in 2005, I decided to come with a concept and redo the whole scene so it's more like a beach friendly and utilize the natural beauty that exists right behind us. So in 2005, I submitted some proposal to the town. We had little problems, but then again, we worked through with the town, and by 2006, we came with a formal plan. It took almost a year to get the approval for the site. And last year, we started in renovating the site, which was really quite a challenge because there was extensive damage in the structure part. Throughout the whole event, we came up with this kind of picture, or so to say, the view of the building, the way it's going to appear. I'm an artist as well, and seriously, artists look at things differently. Even though I hired artists to paint the mural and whatnot, I get fully involved with it. And it's kind of interesting because all the design, all the details that are in here, it takes thinking way in advance. Lighting, you can't just decide when it's done. You got to think way in advance for how to hide lighting so it's done precisely how you want it. So that is the fun part. I love that part. Implementing bamboos, implementing this kind of teak, and all these different materials are so important to me. And this was a completely different way of decorating or designing. This was pretty much open. Anything could go. Key West, that was the theme all along. Then I wanted to make it a little bit more casual by kind of implementing different features in the place. Also, if you went upstairs, you saw the cocktail tables are from retrieved driftwood that we pulled it off the sand that we're behind, which took at least 15 people, crew, to cut it off and bring it up and use it. And we have a table there that has got, I don't know if you've seen it, the cocktail tables and the bar table. It's made with this huge trunks of this petrified tree, which is pretty cool. And so we continued to renovate the building, and it took almost a year, and then there we are. Now is the final production, and this is what it is. We got the beach behind us, and we have people coming here every minute waiting to when we open, and we're finally going to be open.
Now, Margaret Vandevenner, a manager at Sebastian Beach Inn about 15 miles south of Sand on the Beach, told us she welcomes the new restaurant. It offers people more choices, she said. Well, that's our show, everyone. I'm Adam Lowenstein. We'll be back next Tuesday, and we hope to see you then. In the meantime, have a great week.